It's preparing. Okay, so we are live on YouTube now. And then this will be recorded also, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to go in and share this on Facebook. I know there are some people asking me where our link is.
Okay.
And we'll get started in just a moment.
Okay.
And then during this too, so I did make that video. I'll let you guys know when we're going to share some photos.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I'm just going back into the event. I know we just started streaming, so. And then if you guys have anybody that you guys want to share it with on Facebook, if anybody's watching, feel free to do that. Let's see.
Or share it from my phone.
So I usually just get on, share it a couple of different places. Okay, we do got some people on with Facebook Live. It's kind of new to me, guys. So I don't see the comments so quickly on here and stuff. So whoever's watching, hello. And we will go ahead and get started. This is a live broadcast for people who are watching later. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Marissa Barrera, and we are hosting the episode 9 of Voices of Strength. We run a series every week where we highlight the victims of police killings from across the nation. So we bring the families on and they get to share their stories. When people are killed by police, their stories often get covered up quickly. They get justified wrongly, and their families are left here suffering grief and trying to get answers. For anybody who doesn't know me yet, my name is Marissa Barrera, and my brother was murdered by multiple officers of the Woodland Police Department in 2017. I started this a couple months ago to create something for the families where we can come on and hear their stories. So today we have Angelic Salgado joining us today, and she's going to share about her son, Jonathan Molina. And I think I just lost her. Let me see if she's back. Hello. Did we lose you?
Yeah, so for some reason it just turned off.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So
no problem. I just finished off introducing the show and you briefly. I just shared your name and your son's name. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself and share where you're from. And
Okay. Well, thank you. My name is Angelic Salgado. My son, Jonathan Molina, was, we're both from Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was murdered by Kevin Smith on July 15th of 2018. It's been a long, ongoing process, and it's been heartbreaking for all of us. And I never thought to be in this situation. And knowing you, knowing many others that I've met through Facebook has been a little reassuring on getting ideas, for what we're faced with. Because when someone comes into this situation, you come blind and you're fighting. It's almost like fighting demons, because what's it called? You can't get any answers or anything like that. It's just everywhere is just unjust. So I would like to thank you for allowing me to voice out my son's story, and so that he can be heard.
Yeah. Thank you for introducing yourself, and you're very welcome. What you shared is how many of us feel, and when this happens to our families, facing demons, I don't know how else to put it. It's some real evil that we're up against, and it goes a lot beyond the murder of our loved ones. It just goes so much deeper and further. So thank you for being here and willing to come on and share. And I think it's important that we as families uplift each other through these times. We all been there to where it just hits us. And I found a lot of strength and comfort in the other families who have along the way that I've met through this. So I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing.
And thank you.
So let's go ahead and talk about Jonathan first. That's what this is about. It's about our loved ones. It's about sharing, about their lives. And that's something that nobody ever really gets to hear. They hear the ugly part.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also guys, during this, in a minute, I'm going to hop off screen and it'll have a video sharing pictures of Jonathan and his family that his mother allowed me to put on here for us. And yeah, so I always say, just if you don't mind sharing, just about how he was as a kid growing up, just those silly, funny things about him, special things.
Okay. Well, my son, in his 23 years of life, he was my firstborn. He was my first love. He was a big brother to his younger siblings. He was a protector. He was like the father of the family. He always protected his brothers and sisters. He loved them. He had a strong character. He loved to rap. He loved making beats and music. He loved going out as family. When we would have family weekends together, he would love to, we would always have to choose, between the kids, which weekend is theirs and so forth. And he loved all that. He, most of all, with his short time, he loved his daughter. His daughter is just turned 7 on the 13th of December, and she was 4 when he passed away.
My goodness.
And it's been the most devastating for her, because she still doesn't understand that he's not coming back. Jonathan had a loving soul. Wherever you go, people just loved him, loved to talk to him. They can sense that vibe. He had this most precious smile that it would just attract anybody. We had, before he passed away, we had the most strongest bond that I thank the Lord. He gave me that, and that I was able to spend spend the last moments with him before his murder, because it was murder. And he's just loving. I mean, his asthma voice that he has. I mean, I have audios where I hear him tell me that he loves me. I'm sorry. And I said I wasn't going to cry, but
it's okay.
But it's just, they're beautiful memories, and I like to hold on to them. But I just wish they weren't memories. He was a good dancer also. I have videos of surprising videos that just popped up out of just random, I guess, when I'm feeling depressed in some way or another. I feel like he likes to try to communicate. He was a good brother. He was a good brother to his brother and his younger sister.
Thank you for sharing. You know what? I'm having trouble getting it connected, but I am going to, for my screen, share these for now. Okay. Because the pictures, as you're sharing about him, the pictures definitely reflect the things you're sharing. And I put this video together earlier, and, you know, I feel you guys so much, you guys and your family. And, you know, I think while doing these, and I hope that while people listen to our stories, that they can see, you know, your family, you know, everybody is, all these people here are impacted. He had all his family who loved him, and he was a person and didn't deserve that.
Yeah, most definitely. He was a character.
You can see that through the pictures. I loved it. I really enjoyed, and you had so many on your page. That's why I asked you if I could go steal some, because I know it would be nice. And, you know, people need to see this when we're talking about our loved ones. This, you know, that's not the person that they put out in the news. You know, this person right here, that's a loving, yeah.
They put out anything just to cover themselves. They put lies, they put dirt. They don't understand that he was a human being and didn't deserve to be killed the way he was killed and left to die.
And you said his daughter was 4 when he passed?
Yeah, she just turned 7.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
she turned 5 in December. He was murdered 18 days prior to his 24th birthday, and she was 5 or 4. I'm sorry, she was 4, and she had just turned 5 that December. And that was his life. I mean, he loved his daughter.
You can see it. That's another thing we often talk about on this show. Many of the people killed do have children, and there are a lot of children left behind from these killings.
Yes.
What are they supposed to grow up thinking about this world that we're living in when their parents were murdered this way? And it's so sad seeing these pictures too. But it's the reality.
It is. It's the reality that she has to grow up. She's not going to have her dad to walk her down the aisle, her dad to cry on his shoulders. She's not going to have any of that because that was taken from her. I mean, there's little moments, you know, her graduating kindergarten, her teeth falling out, you know, just her birthdays, just everything. He's not going to be there anymore.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. Goodness. I'll play that video again while we're speaking to for the viewers that are, and for us. So sorry, just getting this back on. Okay. I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that with us and letting us see a closer look. And let's go ahead and do, what happened that day. Can you maybe share how you found out and kind of where it started from there?
Oh my God, it was a nightmare. I was coming back from Mexico. I had brought my daughter down from Chicago. I'm from California. I'm sorry. I had brought her down from California. We were going to have a little family reunion in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so I got there like around 6 in the evening. And my daughter had already been there a couple of days prior because I couldn't get out to New Mexico just as of that day. But I got there that Sunday. So as I'm walking over to go meet up with my daughter, it was a happy moment. I hadn't seen my daughter in a little while because she was living with her father in California. And so I come up to her and I hug her and it was just a happy moment. And then what's it called? I get a call and it's my other son telling me that Jonathan was shot. And I was all like, what are you talking about? What? And he's all, yeah, he was shot. So then we ran back down the street to my youngest brother's house. And I tell him, I don't know what's going on. He said, Milagro called and he told me that Jonathan was shot, that he was shot on 86th Street and a 7-Eleven and stuff like that. So we jumped in the car, we went, and we were looking and nothing. And then what's called, I guess they kept on calling my other son and telling him that, yeah, that it was Jonathan. So then there, my whole nightmare just began. Because as we get to the 7-Eleven, we don't see anything. We get back to the house. My mind's just contemplating, what am I going to do? What's my next step? How am I going to find out? So I call the number 242 cops. As I call 242 cops, whoever answers, they're at dispatch or whatever. They're all like, I said, I believe my son was shot last night. I said, I'm not sure if it is my son. And, the questions they ask you, well, how do you know? I said, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. I said, I'm trying to get information. I'm trying to find out if it was my son. I'm trying to find out and stuff like that. So that conversation, they said, well, we'll get back to you and this and that. So they hung up and I was all like, okay. So I was waiting. So finally, a sergeant, I believe her name was Carolyn, calls me. And she's all like, well, how did you hear about, right away they start investigating one, but yet your loved one, you have no idea what's going on with your loved one. So right away, well, how do you know this and that? Can you give descriptions? And so I gave the descriptions, the tattoos that my son had, he had his daughter's name and I gave all that information that they needed. And still to that moment, they said, it could be your son, but it might not be your son, but we can't definitely ID it. And here I am just like, what do you mean you can't tell me, what do I need to do? What's the next step that I need to do to find out if it is my son? So then it was just a long on dragging process. Finally, I guess he was at the morgue. I went to the morgue Sunday they weren't open, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they wouldn't let me identify my son. They told me that what's it called, that they do it through a fingerprint system. And then so Tuesday I called them and I was all like, well, what's going on? I said, who better than his own mother to identify his body? I said, I can identify him. I know what my son, I know who he is. They gave me some odd story about his fingerprints being rejected and not printing out or not being able to get to the system of fingerprint.
That is weird.
Yeah, I went again Wednesday. I went again Thursday. And finally, Thursday is when they told me, yeah, it was my son.
So how many days was that?
It was 4 days.
4 days. Wow.
Well, not including the Sunday, because of course the morgue was closed on Sundays, but it was Sunday because he was murdered at around 2:13 in the morning. And so it was that Monday, it was that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It took 4 days for me to.
Wow, that's horrible. I'm so sorry that that's how it started too. That's just, and real quick, just, for people watching or people that aren't familiar, this kind of stuff, it is disgusting and shocking. But for me, that I've been doing this for a while now, too, us that have lived it, it actually tends to be the normal type of behavior towards families when their loved one is killed. Little scandalous things or big things like that, like holding the bodies back. They did that to my mother. They did that to us as well, trying to get us to identify through the tattoos. So for people watching, I hope nobody ever loses their loved one to police like this. But, we have to know that we cannot trust them. When our loved ones are killed by police, we cannot wait for the process. We cannot believe any of their words. And we shouldn't even speak about our loved ones, because they will try to twist it and use it against us, try to make them look bad. And while we're just searching for answers, it's so disgusting that they treated your family that way. So sorry.
And throughout the whole process, while we were trying to get, everything situated to get him out of the morgue, to get him released to the mortuary, and they kept on calling me, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what do you guys want? You know what I mean? They wanted to blast out his name. They wanted to put all kinds of dirt, right away, because they were looking for a next of kin. Mm-hmm. Right away, so that they can get their side of the story out. And while I'm over here trying to make preparations, so one of those times that they did call me, they're all like, well, we really need to see you here at the office, and we would like for you to come. And I'm at the mortuary making arrangements. I said, well, I'm here. I said, give me a bit and I'll come down to the station. So me, my brother, Daniel, my sister, Ashley, we drive out, they drive me over there because I'm a total wreck. They drive me out there and they take us down to an office in the police station. And it was just, I felt like it was just like a slap, in the face, like, all they told me, the same thing, is that they couldn't identify, they couldn't verify this and that, but but believed that they'd done everything in their power to resuscitate my son and to give him first aid and stuff like that. And me being ignorant at the time and not knowing, anybody else's stories and hearing, everything that I've heard through, through your page, through other families that have been through it, I was very ignorant. So I looked at the officer straight in the eyes as they looked at me straight in the eyes and told me that they'd done everything to assist my son. I tell them, thank you. But when I got lapel cams, dash cams, all the officers, videos and stuff like that, it was lies.
Wow. That's that's another thing that they do. They try to make us feel like, we tried and they cared, and they're trying to, it's fake being fake. One, they don't really have compassion when they're holding back the truth, when they know what happened, but that is a slap in the face to think back that you thanked them. But a lot of us, I know I'm one of the families that there's things that I wish I could go back and change because, we learned the truth. Takes years literally to get truth. But, I try to remind myself and other people, and people have reminded me, we didn't know better. Like you said, I admit, I was ignorant to this stuff before until it hit this close to home. And let me ask you real quick too, what was prior to this, and then we'll get back into that, but prior, what were your thoughts on law enforcement? Have you had any experiences before? Do you have friends, family, or what's the deal?
I've never really had any encounters with law enforcement. And my aunt used to date a police officer. So, I mean, I've never had any kind of hatred towards a law officer as I do now. Mm-hmm. As I do now, because I want to say I was ignorant to a lot of the things, we don't, in a daily life time, we don't go, watching other things until something impacts you. Mm-hmm. We live our life day by day, work, family, this and that. But you really don't realize what's going outside of the world until it happens to you. Until something as this happens to you. And I want to say that, I thought, I take that back. There was one situation prior to my son's murder, and it was with Valencia County Police Department. Also, they put us in a situation to where my brother, may he rest in peace, had committed, he had shot himself. And we were trying to get him to the hospital. And at the time that I was resuscitating him and trying to keep him alive, I remember the officers, I told my mom, help me get him into the car. Let's get him, the helicopter, the ambulance, they're not coming fast enough. I said, let's just get him into the car. We'll get him there faster. And the cop turned around and seen me in my despair and literally told me that if I took him in my car and if he were to die in my car, that he was going to get me for homicide.
Wow.
So I'm just, right now that I'm thinking about this, I don't know how that memory just came back into my head. But yeah, I had an encounter at that time. And maybe just then my brother too would still be alive. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Wow, my goodness. That's freaking horrible. I'm sorry to hear of that experience as well. Over the years that I've been around this scene, and I prior had bad experience with law enforcement prior to my brother being killed, but I come to find that there are so many victims in different ways, or people that were wronged just like that. I know it just kind of clicked for you right now, but that's some bullshit. There's the cops are seen as these heroes and these people that are supposedly supposed to protect and serve us. And, they have them working with kids and children, being all up in the communities. And they definitely, experiences like that should not be happening. Gosh, that's hard. Okay, let's go back to, so then how did you guys, I know you were trying to plan 4 days later, and then how did they go after that?
It wasn't really good after that. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, we got my son situated. We got him buried. I don't even remember the funeral or anything like that. I guess I vaguely flipped out and what's it called? I don't know who I was, or I don't know where I was at that time, but it was right before before we were going to bury my son. And I remember, I'm pretty sure, I'm not even sure if it was, I believe it was my brother, or I'm not even sure who came up to me, but they told me that, if I didn't snap out of it, that my son wasn't going to get buried. And that I needed to be strong and I needed to continue because we weren't going to have a proper funeral for my son. So we got that all situated and we buried him. But what's more distraughting after the fact was we started getting, my sister was being stalked. They were being pulled over. They were, I don't even know, but I honestly want to say that my brother's shop also, was rated, unjustly. And but I honestly think it was just, they were trying to find something, to put dirt on our name, or, you know what I mean? Apart from all the dirt they put on my son's name.
So how long did you notice? I know that when we talked on the phone, a couple months ago, you had shared some different things like that happening to some members of your family, some harassment, some stalking. And for people watching again, this is definitely something that happens. She shared this experience with me. And I think it's important that people, not just the impacted families, but other people too, we realize, like, see what we are up against. We are grieving families. We didn't do anything to deserve this. And we are, on top of our loved ones being murdered, we're being freaking stalked, harassed. We're being wronged in many ways. And so, yeah, you did share that. So what was it like? How soon did you guys notice that even start happening?
Right away. We started noticing it also with, our Facebook accounts, because obviously my son had his phone and it went into investigation and stuff like that. Our phones would certainly, there would be interceptions in our phones. Random people, when you're talking and random people on the phone, it was just, it was instant, it just started right away. Just right away. It just kept on continuing and continuing and continuing. And I didn't want to believe it. But once they started pulling over, and sitting outside the front yard, then, I mean, you couldn't not believe it. You know what I mean? It was happening, and you're like, why? What did one do? Your son is buried, he's gone, and they're still coming after us. What did we do? What did my son, he didn't deserve to be shot 6 times, 8 times, how many ever times that they shot him. He didn't deserve that. And we definitely didn't deserve them stalking us, harassing us, intercepting our calls, our Facebooks and stuff like that. We didn't deserve that.
My goodness. And so for the viewers too, and just a reminder for us and other impacted families, like, when this happens, we don't have anyone to turn to. There's not, a force out there that can help us through this. So from what I've seen, and I've talked to hundreds of impacted family members over the years, is that if you're questioning the narrative, if you're even questioning, and apparently, even if we're just asking to see the body, that happened to many of us, they're going to target us afterwards. And they already villainized our loved one when whatever false narrative they released. And they definitely go after the family members that speak up or are asking questions. With my family, it happened very quick too. And I want people to see, like, how dangerous this is. Like, what are they watching us for? Are they watching us? Like, are they going to kill us too? That's what I was wondering. My son was 4 when this happened to my family. So when they're stalking me, they're stalking my son too. Like, they're stalking women and children too. And it's just some real life stuff. Some real life bad guys that we're dealing with. So let's go. Jonathan's killing, it's caught on camera. You eventually got to see this. Do you want to share, like, I know a lot happened in between, but maybe when you started getting some truth about it and what's happened since, I guess, what you've done.
Well, it took me a while to get, any kind of information. It took me about 6 emails to DPS. Still up until this time, I still haven't received all the evidence and all the audio and all the interviews that I've been asking for. I been calling. I went to go see because they done a search warrant of the vehicle that my son was murdered in. And what's it called? So I went to the courthouse, in public records. And as soon as I get there, all his files are sealed. They wouldn't give me any information. They wouldn't release any information to me. All they kept on saying that if I wanted any information, that I actually went to like the district attorney's office. I believe that's what it was. And they told me that they're not to help me. They're here to help the officers, so that if I needed any information or anything like that, that I would have to get a lawyer in order to get any kind of files, any kind of information, anything, pertaining my son, and I'm like, I'm the next of kin. I'm his mother, I've written so many motions, so many, just asking why, why is all of a sudden, they murder my son, and then all of a sudden all his paperwork that is public, is sealed. What's the reason? What's the cause? No reasons, no cause. They still haven't given me any of the paperwork from the public records or anything like that. So, I mean, it's just, I have bits of, of what they say is justified, but there's so many questions still, you know what I mean? There's audio that, has minutes of, difference. There's, audio that just is distorted. There is, the videos that are petsified or petsiglide or whatever that word is, and that you can't even really see, you know what I mean? And it's still not over. I'm still trying to fight all and get all the paperwork that I need, but they feel that with what they gave me is, I guess, is good enough, but it's not good enough because I want everything that they have of my son.
Yeah, you're a mom and you're not going anywhere. I think I don't know how these people think that the families are just going to go away. I do want to say, to hear that the district attorney's office told you that, it's kind of bold of them. They're at least supposed to act like they care, and that they're at least supposed to act like they're doing a thorough investigation, because that's what they're supposed to do, whether the possible suspect is a cop or not. They're supposed to investigate it thoroughly. But I mean, they were being honest. They are not here for us. They are here for the cops. And it can be on video, it could be plain and clear, and they will still always side with the cops. I know a lot of people, they'll see it from the outside and they'll assume, oh, well, if they were wrong, the cops will be fired and dealt with. But that's false. That's fake news. They do not. No. We know this.
No. Yeah, they don't. And when they're justified, they receive hero awards. They don't. They continue on working. They continue getting on pay. They don't get fired. one of the situations that I would like to bring up also is, as I was planning my son's funeral, getting everything situated, I had a phone that had all the pictures that I shared with you, that they were stored, and my phone had went black, but I wanted to save the memory because I wanted to get those pictures. So I went to this phone shop off of Central in Albuquerque. I'm not going to say names or anything like that because I don't want to put them right on the spot. But as I got there, I was talking to the gentleman that was helping me, and I told him, look, my son's funeral is going to be up. I would like to get these pictures as soon as possible. My son was murdered by a police officer. And what's it called? And I just want to get these photos. I was in despair and tears asking him. And it so happened his brother was also killed by a police officer. And his father was an attorney in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Wow. They too had a lawsuit against the state of New Mexico for his brother and the lawyer's son.
My goodness.
But the brother, what shocked me the most was how the brother, he told me, he's all, you need to be careful. He's all, you really need to be careful. He's all, because they're their own gang. And I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand what he was telling me at the moment. I was just, my brain wasn't functioning at that precise moment. But then when things started happening to our family, when things, the news and so forth, when all that started happening, then I just started to realize, okay, I do know what he's talking about. I do see, you know what I mean, where they lie for each other, you know what I mean? They cover up each other and their investigations, and it's not fair. It really isn't fair. And it's disgusting. You know what I mean? Because that's how bad the evil is that we're dealing with. Yep. On trying to get justice for our loved ones.
Gosh, that's so crazy that, it just happened to you. I'm sure you never knew anybody before whose loved one was killed like that. But I sometimes, like, that's something you needed to hear, I guess, at that time, because you guys were in danger. Your family was being watched. You guys were being lied to and dealing with some real crooked people, officials. Goodness. I want to kind of go over to, so people viewing can kind of see how it happened. And also, I read the letter that you shared with me that your sister wrote, kind of breaking down a lot of the flaws, a lot of the wrongs that happened. So this was during a traffic stop, and he was not the driver. He was the passenger. So can you kind of share that from what you uncovered over these years?
From what I uncovered, so well, according to the news clippings and their side of the story, first of all, it was a speeding. Second, it was a stolen vehicle. And then what's it called? From there, it still doesn't play out exactly what was going on or how, about. I mean, you could see from the video where the cop was following him and stuff like that, up until when he pulled them over. Sorry. And so, from what you could see in the lapel, you can't really hear it because, like I said, it's distorted. You can't really hear exactly word for word or anything. You hear a lot of distortion and you just really can't hear it. And he asked the passenger, several questions. He takes out not the passenger, forgive me, the driver, pulls him out of the car, talking to him in the back. And you could see them standing there, but you can't hear what's going on. And then the driver's not arrested or anything. He's not handcuffed or anything like that. So I don't know from that point why he walks over to where my son is at. And then, so when he walks over to my son, he's talking to him, but you really can't hear exactly what he's asking him. You hear every bits and pieces of words and stuff like that. You can see from the video that, you know, they talked for a good couple minutes. Then he asked him, I guess, maybe his name. I have no idea. But my son, what was on top of the car and what was in the evidence and stuff like that was, because you could see my son giving him something, you know, and him placing it on top of the hood. And what's it called? It was a pack of cigarettes, a social security card, and his ID. And then what's it called? From when my son was trying to get out of the car, I mean, my son's 5'9", and what's it called? It's a Honda Prelude, I believe the name of the car is. You know, the car is like 5.51 inches from the ground. So, you know, from us seeing the video, and more my sister, because this is all the information that I got from my sister, Ashley, because I couldn't really look at the videos. I couldn't, you know, sit through all the interviews. She worked very, very hard on getting all this information. I mean, I owe her all the information that I have regarding that to her, because I don't think I would be sane right now, you know, seeing all the autopsies, you know, how it's done, and so forth. I don't think I would be sane. So she brought out all, you know, everything that, you know, that they saw in the videos. And from there, it looks like my son was just trying to get out. You know what I mean? Then he was shoved back in. There was at one point you could see where, like, my son was like, you know, why are you trying to handcuff me? No, you know, with both his hands up. And then from there, it got physical, you know what I mean? Because the cop was literally, my son was inside the car sitting down, and the cop was on top of him, and you could just see the car like moving back and forth, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So, you know, they were fighting who knows how long. You can't really hear, you just hear like, and, you know, just some, and then muffles and distortion. And then what's it called? But the whole time that you can see that the cop is on top of my son, Jonathan. So I guess sometime during their struggle, my son, Jonathan, was trying to get away. And as he pried, you know, what his left leg out and his right arm, he was prying out of the car, you know, trying to get out of the car. The cop got his gun, shot him point blank at the chest. My son dropped. The cop walked around and just unloaded his gun on him. Okay. According to the police report or the interviews, to what my sister also put in the statement, that, you know, because we were trying to do a second review for my son's case. And that's what that letter that I showed you was for a second review. He had time to reassess the situation, you know what I mean? He had already shot my son. You know, that bullet was the killer bullet, because my son is asthmatic, and his lungs filled up with blood. And what's it called? But the cop never assessed the situation. The cop never thought twice. I mean, his gun even jammed. It was even God letting him know, you know, think about the situation again. And he did, and he reloaded and just shot all the extra shots.
My goodness. Gosh, I for people listening too, I did see this video as well. She shared this with me, and just like she says, one I want to point out too is that, like, so the passenger was on the other, not on the busy side, right? Your son's was on the side.
They were both on. Well, it was on an exit.
I meant your son.
The driver, and then what's it called? They put it like in the median to where an exit was at, so they were right in the median.
That's what, yeah. And then you see the cop push him back in, and the struggle, just like you shared. And to me, it's like, why are the cops being the aggressors and even putting hands on people? Like, why did they have to resort to physically assaulting people? And why don't they know how to use their words like we teach our children to use their words?
What really mind boggles me is, in the state of New Mexico, it's called the buddy system. Normally cops are supposed to have, another officer in the car. If this was, a stolen vehicle, like they said, you know what I mean? If this was dangerous, stop or anything, why didn't he ever call for backup? You know what I mean? There could have been a chance that my son, could still be alive. If somebody could assist it, you know what I mean? Not only, the news never mentioned that my son had mental disabilities because they don't know, of course, you know what I mean? They don't know his history. They don't know, all the mental history that I went through with my son and stuff like that. And of course, they're just going to put what they need to put so that my son looks like, the bad one. Yeah. I'm not saying that my son was innocent, I mean, not innocent. I don't want to say that he was perfect, because he had flaws, you know what I mean? He was on medication. He had, his mental issues, and a part of his mental issues was my brother, when he committed suicide that day. He had post-traumatic stress disorder since a very young age, because we were all a witness to what was happening and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And they don't say any of that, you know what I mean? Right away, they just want to just throw all the dirt that they can on my son's name, but they don't see the history behind, everything that has been going on throughout the years.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for sharing that part too about, his mental health history. A lot of people killed by police have had issues, or they might be having an episode when they were killed, or there's a background of it. And I think that's important to note too, as in our society these days, there are many people who are impacted. I think every family, we all have at least one, but most likely more family members who have issues with that, or who have faced their struggles. And it does, these cops out here being armed, supposed to be the ones who are working with the communities, they damn well should be trained. Or I don't even know if people could be trained to work. Like, I don't know if you're an evil person like that, if you just want to harm people, can you be trained properly? I don't think so. And I think that's the culture that plagues the policing system. It's what it was built on. It was built on some evil stuff, and we're still there. Yeah. It's crazy.
What's crazy is, you go to the army, they train you, they prepare you. You're not supposed to fire until shoot upon firing. And yet these cops, they just shoot to kill. You know what I mean? They need to have proper training. They need to have, mental training. They need to have all that training. They can't just, somebody just come up off the street and become a law enforcement, because what's it called? It's not working. It's not working. You know what I mean? We're seeing it more and more with our loved ones that, that are being, harmed and stuff like that. It's not working. They need proper training.
Absolutely. And with that too, I'll add in, they heavily need to be evaluated for what the hell is going on in their minds. Like, what? I could never, how you shared that he already shot him in the chest. he went, that it jammed. And then he also, took the steps back, then unloaded. Like you said, he had time to think about that. Like, and it sounds like that he probably remembered that they're supposed to kill when they shoot. That's what the cops are trained to do. A lot of people don't believe that or don't understand that, but it's easier for them to kill someone than to almost kill someone, because then that person's alive and can speak for themselves. They're going to have lots of medical issues and bills, and it's just more of a hassle for them to have someone who survived this. I do want to share with you real quick. We have been getting some comments throughout this. We have 16 people watching live with us right now, and we have some other impacted families: Barbara Akamoto, Tracy Salgado, I think, Stephanie, Marie. We have a bunch. They're saying hello. They're wishing you, wishing the best for your family. Justice for Jonathan Molina, Elaine. We got a bunch. So afterwards, I always encourage whoever is on with me to just go peep those and see the support. So I want to go back to this officer now, and right after it happened. So one thing, when they kill our loved ones, the first thing, they kill them, and then another component that comes right along with that is holding back, not offering aid, not getting them the medical treatment they need, denying them, being negligent. So can you share that part of it? Because I know that played a huge role here too.
Well, after the fact that, I went on live news to try to get my son's story out there, trying to see, what was going on, because like I said, I still didn't know all the bits and pieces. I was still without all the information that I needed, and I didn't have the lapels in my possession or anything. Right after that, I had an interview with KOB Channel 4 News. And I was just like, all lives matter, what happened to my son. I just want justice. Shortly after that, before that interview, I believe before that interview, let me just make sure here so that I'm not saying false. Before that interview, that interview happened on the 1st. That's when I didn't get the lapel cams until in March of the following year of my son's death. So prior to that, on the 11th, I went back to the courthouse, asking, and they told me no. On November 2nd, on the 16th of November, I'm sitting there looking through Facebook and Instagram. It was Instagram. It wasn't Facebook. It was Instagram. I was there looking through it, and then I come across the state police page on my Instagram. And Kevin Smith was awarded a heroism award for killing my son. And that just broke my heart. I mean, how do you get a heroism reward for murdering somebody regardless of their past history? You know what I mean? It was just mind-boggling. But what was more mind-boggling on top of that, on the 18th of November, also 2018, like it seemed like they were just trying to make him to be this best good cop of the year or something. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was, because it was a few months after 5 months after my son's murder. And what's it called? On Thanksgiving, it was the week of Thanksgiving on the 18th. There they have the officer again doing a DUI checkpoint. And obviously, I guess the lady that he had pulled over, I guess she was under the influence, but what's it called? She couldn't do the sobriety test because she said that it was cold. But what's it called? He, of course, he stepped up as being a gentleman. He's all, oh, well, ma'am, I'll give you my jacket from inside my unit and so forth. But that didn't even bother me. What bothered me is how clear the audio sounded of his dash cam. Wow. 5 months prior to the dash cam that they sent me that was distorted, that you couldn't hear anything, you heard it. You couldn't hear anything. And what's it called? 5 months later, it was perfect condition and perfect. You could hear everything perfectly well. That's what distraughted me even most. You know what I mean? It was just like, what are they trying to do? First, they give him a hero award on the 16th. On the 18th, the audio is perfectly perfect.
Wow. That is crazy. But it goes to show again, I often talk about on here and just in general that we end up having to be like our own detectives, having to uncover, find little clues, literally clues, things like that. I came across things like that in our situation, but if you wouldn't have been scrolling that day, you may have missed that. And they really take advantage of the fact that our ignorance in these type of settings, and they really think we're dumb. For you to put that together, okay, well, why was your dash cam so clear when you're trying to act like a good cop?
Yeah.
Trying to pretend to be a good cop. And of course you're going to showcase that. Why don't you post the full unedited video of you killing Jonathan? Why don't they do that? Because they try to set that narrative too, that the police did a good job. And it's just sick. You wouldn't think this stuff is happening these days. And then they're being awarded. Like, that is so sick to hear that he received that award just months after killing your son. I've seen it before, though. There's many families can attest to this, that their children's or whoever killed their loved one, got awarded or promoted or some spectacular thing. That's absolutely disgusting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So what I recently found out was, during our own investigation, us family members being, detectives and trying to find out, what else you can find out. Well, it comes about that in 2016, there was quite a few excessive force and with, cases against Kevin Smith, and the same story with his gun jamming up. But this one particular case that just was settled now in September of this year was also another excessive force against this lady, a lady that had mental disabilities. And what's it called? I don't want to put it all out there, but if he would have been stopped in 2016, just maybe my son would be alive. Yep. There is that 50% chance that my son could still be here with us. You know what I mean? Or maybe in the institutions where he needed to be, or, in the mental health where he needed, but he would still be here. He could still be here. He could still see his daughter. He could still see her, raise her up, regardless, or, that's what's.
And like I shared in one of my posts today, I'm like, Kevin Smith, the killer cop, it's a proven menace. He's a proven menace. He has no business working with people. He killed your son. He's had multiple complaints. He assaulted and used brutality. Obviously, he got, if it came out now, years before, 2 years, right? Before he killed your son.
Well,
And
it was the case against him was built in 2 years prior to my son, but it just barely settled this year.
yeah. Yeah. So back then, if they would have dealt with him accordingly, he wouldn't have been around to murder your son. And this is something that people still don't hear us, but they're going to hear us. They're going to have to, is that's the whole thing. That's the issue here, is that these police are able to abuse, kill, rape, assault, harass, stalk. I could go on. They're able to do that to people, to us, without repercussions. They don't even get fired. They don't even get fired for killing a human being. And there are cops out there that are also have multiple kills. So Kevin Smith he needs to be locked up for the rest of his life, or worse. Goodness. Thank you for sharing that too. That's important that people see, like, hey, this is a problem. This is, and it's not just, your loved one that, it's happened to. It's happened to many. With the officers that killed my brother, that same year, I put out their faces and I asked the community, if you guys have had any issues with these cops, please tell me. And 3 of those cops involved, there's a lot of things I got back from community about it, dating back to the last 15 years ago was one of the complaints that I heard back. But a lot of times they make it hard to even make complaints against officers. So truly, if we could truly go back and know how many people they have harmed, I can't even imagine that cop, how many he's harmed. Because a lot of people won't make complaints, or, they just take it because that's normal and nothing happens to cops. It's just horrible. So we had a couple more family members just coming on. We had another mom. She says, I live a few hours away from my son's killers and the department. They have admitted to 2 of our attorneys that they're watching my Facebook. They have asked for all texts, emails, and messages from me. Gosh. Yeah. And you know what? That's something that I was recently had a conversation with some of our attorneys, is that they will, like, when we make it to court and when we actually have our time and everything comes out, like the truth, the truth that we know, they will still make an effort to attack us and want to see, why do you got to see all of our messages? Who did we murder? We didn't do anything, but they're going to do that to all of us. So it's a lot.
It is.
So, gosh, thank you for sharing everything that you have. And I want to give you a big shout out and just big hug and kudos for you being able to come on and share. I know you shared with me that you haven't spoken like this about it. And I hope, you can always use this video to reference if people don't know your son's story, instead of, trying to retell it. It's, that's why we kind of share it all in here. And, yeah, I know as this show grows, people are going to see more of our stories. And once they click on my page, you see all of our loved ones' faces. And, the thing that I try to remind myself is, and it's something my brother used to tell me all the time, is like, when people are lying, when it comes to people doing you wrong, one thing, you can't hide from the truth. You can't hide from the facts. The truth is the truth. And people are dumb to think otherwise, that they can really do all of us like this, because we're all of us families are getting done the same and taking all these blows. It's horrible, but I'm happy to know other families at this point, not happy for the reason why we're here, but it gives us a little bit, and we learn from each other. And that's why, sharing our experiences, we could connect some dots. And I've had so many times when other families might be like, hey, what you said, that helped me with this day. And I've also reached out to people like, hey, I could use that in my brother's case, or we experienced that. So it's definitely important for us to keep sharing.
Thank you. I don't think I would have got the willpower to do it if you wouldn't have asked me, honestly. I mean, I didn't know how to go about being the voice for my son. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to, I was kind of afraid, you know, of repercussion against my family, and, you know, because they were already stalking him, and I was afraid, but it's just dragging too long, and there's just still no justice, and I'm not afraid anymore. And I thank you. I thank you because you gave me the opportunity, you know, to be my son's voice. And also, you know, you've helped me with, you know, your videos, and like you said, the family, and, you know, connecting, you know, other dots that maybe, you know, I, you know, so it's a process, and people don't know where to begin or how to begin or how to go about any situation like this. And when you start meeting family members that where it happened, you know, unfortunately it happened to them also. And, you know, you start getting answers, but then it's crazy because sometimes we just get stalked. You know what I mean? It's just like we're running the same rat race, and, you know, we're they're trying to shut us down, basically. You know what I mean? They're trying to keep us quiet. They're trying to make it just brush it underneath the rug and stuff like that. And, you know, and because of your show, and, you know, with all the people that I've met through you, and, you know, all the friends that, you know, reached out to me, and on Facebook and stuff, you know, from that are still fighting. And I just thank you guys all. You know, we're in this together, and we're going to have to continue to fight, because like you said, the truth is going to come out one way or another, and they're going to have to pay, whether it's here on earth or on the other life, they're going to pay.
Yes. Thank you for saying that too. That the last thing you said, that's something that it's been in my head these last couple of weeks. And it's been a reminder that I received from someone else, that even if it doesn't happen here, you can't escape killing another human being. No, you can't. Gosh, you can't. And that just gave me the chill saying that too, because I truly believe that to be true. And once again, like, thank you for coming on. And I know when we first kind of communicated, you hadn't really known that many people or different families yet. So I'm glad to be able to kind of help you share this. And I'm always here for, you know, as things come along, if you need just an ear or anything, there's definitely the families. That's who we can lean on, because one, we're not going to lie to each other. We're not going to scheme or hold evidence back. A lot of us have experienced that from officials and lawyers, things like that. So I greatly also want to say, I greatly appreciate all the families, all the ones that are watching and have joined, and all the future families that will be on the show with us. So is there anything else you want to share about Jonathan, or anything before we wrap up?
No, we're going to be fighting for all our families and their memory. We're just going to continue the fight, and thank you guys, and thank you all for watching that came out to watch, and thank you so much for everything. Just thank you, and blessings to you all.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I echo exactly what you said. Thank you to everybody. Blessings to all. And, you know, I know we're ending the year off, about to start a new year. I really hope that 2021, we know 2020 brought up a lot of the police brutality, you know, just for society. And I really hope to see families have wins through 2021. And I just know now it's at a point where a lot of us families, we're not going anywhere. So we're going to be here. We're going to keep fighting for our loved ones and everybody else's loved ones. The loved ones, the people that haven't been killed yet, because we know they're not stopping. We've reached over 2,000 people killed by police just this year. And we still have the rest of the day. And I hate to say that, but say it in that manner that more people could die, but it's the truth. Okay, Angelic. Well, you guys have a good the rest of your night, and everybody watching, thank you guys.
Everybody, thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.